Hello everybody and welcome back to LMM. And if you're enjoying what you're seeing on the channel at the moment, how about giving this video a like and maybe subscribe to the channel to help us grow and perhaps even check out our Patreon. Some of you will remember that a while ago, I came here to the Talyllyn Railway to be a special guest for one of their events. And at the end of the day, I gave a talk. And if you want to see that, you can click over here to see the talk. But after I'd finished my talk, we did a question and answer session. And for that, well, see for yourselves.
No, but I've got a good question though.
Go ahead.
Apart from, of course, Mid Suffolk, what's your favourite railway?
It's the Talyllyn Railway. I think one of my favourite railways is genuinely the Chorus, because the biggest problem with the Tally, despite it being wonderful, is you have to travel some distance from here at Wharf before you get to the stunning stuff. Whereas Chorus, you start already in the valley. So Chorus is probably one of my favourite. It's quite hard because there's so many wonderful places out there. But definitely the Midi. The Midi's nice. Now, any more questions from you lot?
Where would you most like to film in terms of railway or just in terms of the general museum?
I'd love to film. Do you know what my all-time big goal is? What I want to do more than anything else? I want North Yorkshire Moors with the 48, one end to the other. 9 miles an hour, absolutely flat out. 100 tons maximum. I might be able to manage a brake van, probably not the whole length of Moors. I just think it'd be hilariously good fun. I'd love to take the 48 to some of the bigger railways just because it's so stupid and it's so small. Honestly, actually, if I ever hit like million subscriber level, I'd take it to America. And just because I'd love to see Americans watching it being like, why have you got a toy? What's this? I was chatting to some Americans the other day about their shunters and like, oh yeah, it's only 35 tons. It's really small. Mine's 7.5. You what? Narrow gauge? No, standard gauge. So I'd love that just because the scale of everything and the loading gauge is so big after there, over there. To see it sat there would be hilarious. So that's where I'd like to go. Anything else?
Have you ever visited the Great Central Round?
As a visitor, several times. We're meant to be going back at some point and doing something with the Corn Carriage and Wagon Group. So I really want to show the work that goes in, because it's one of those things that we all kind of appreciate steam trains and the work that goes in with them, but nobody really appreciates carriage and wagon. We just assume the carriages are going to be there. And even less so, people appreciate wagons, because most railways overlook them in a grade because they don't actually earn you any money. Carriages, passengers go on that. That earns money, good. So I really want to do something highlighting the work of the Carriage and Wagon Group there, because they've got so many projects going on, so many wagons, and they put on amazing goods trains. So hopefully we're going to go do a weekend looking at the work, but then do their Goods Galore gala and hopefully go out on the trains and show off actually the work they're doing. Yeah. Any more?
Miserable day filming.
What?
Yeah, what was your most miserable day?
What was your most miserable day filming that still ended up resulting in a video? Instead of it just ended up being an aborted project.
To be fair, I don't have that many aborted projects. I think the only one I've actually aborted in recent time, I'll get on to miserable in a minute. The only one I aborted recently was I was filming at Didcot doing DL26, which is the Hunslet, I think, which it's an 060 diesel mechanical, and they call it the Rat. And so normally when I go to railways, the way I film is, we're going to do this. Can I have somebody who can tell me about this thing there? Because there's not much point in researching it. Some of these things, there's no information out there, like DL26. This is a diesel. And that's about all you get off that. So, and most of the time you find the interesting things about it, the quirks, the little stories, when you talk to people and the volunteers about it. So I turned up, chatted to them. So why is this thing called the Rat? Don't know. Great. It's got a British Transport Commission on the side of the cab, but not a works plate. Why has it got that? Don't know. What's its works number? Don't know. What year was it built? Because in the blurb I found, I've got 1958 and 1956. Don't know. The worst days filming, though, I can't think. I mean, we're fairly lucky with most of it. Actually, no, I do know. The video we did out in Belgium with the austerity. Now, we'd gone out for that, and there had been a storm in the UK at the same time. There was, whenever we went, bad storms. And I didn't really appreciate this, but Belgium's quite flat. I stood there, kind of being buffeted by the wind, trying to protect the microphone from the sound. And we were meant to shoot the WD, and they had 2 diesels we went to. We managed to just about do the WD and the Orient Express video because the wind was awful. None of the videos, I think only 1 or 2 of the drive-bys actually had sound that was usable on them. The cameras kept falling over in the wind. So on those videos, there's only like 4 or 5 actual GVs, and the rest of it, you'd be like, oh, it's going to be a great shot, it's going to be a great shot, it's going to be a great, no. So watching it back in the edit, I'd be like, and that was a real challenge of a shoot to put together because we knew it was bad at the time. So I think we were out there for 3 days, then ended up with 2 videos. And that was, yeah. Shoot, because obviously, I don't know if you appreciate, the hardest thing with making videos, people watch bad quality video. People won't listen to bad quality sound. Sound is the most important thing. And you realize this, that, there we go. You realize this, that when you start watching stuff, if you start really listening to what's going on, you'll close your eyes and listen to a film and you'll know what's going on because the sound design in it, you'll hear everything going on and it makes sense. Without the sound, it's just pretty pictures. So when we're battling with the wind, I mean, the microphone here is okay, but it won't survive anything other than, more than that, you feel the wind coming over you, yeah, that's the audio gone. Trying to shooting that where the wind's buffeting and you're standing going. And where it was, so obviously I need to stand most of the time with my back to the wind to try and shield the microphone. The shot of how it was lined up, the wind was just funneling down and it was awful. But it worked, so anyway. So yeah, that was, I think, the worst one we've had so far, probably. Anyone else?
Since you've been doing small mechanical marbles and do you think you actually made a difference or actually making a difference in the heritage as well?
Ooh. Yeah. The biggest thing, actually, it has made a difference in some regards. Yeah. It has made, I know it's made a difference. It sounds really big-headed to say that as a response, but there are people in the room who have volunteered as a result of watching. And one of the best things I get are people in the comments saying, I started volunteering because I watched the videos. I think the biggest one we had was we did a video at the Talyllyn Railway of the Ruston 44/48 that hadn't run in 12 years. As a result of shooting that, we crashed their website. And that was quite successful. You had so many people watching the video, following the link, that the website goes down. Yeah, I think it's made a difference. And that's, if I didn't think it was making a difference and people were enjoying it, I don't think I'd still be doing it. It's the whole point is, again, the fact that there are younger people here who have watched it and are involved. That's the whole point. If I can encourage people like you, all of you, in fact, it doesn't matter if you're younger people or not. If I can encourage any of you to get involved and do it, then I've done my job. If I can make one person want to volunteer, then it's all been worthwhile. If I can make one person think, you know what, buying a knackered old car is a great idea, then I've done my job. Well done, Charles. Thank you very much. But it's the whole point. But seriously, though, as much as we joke about it, if there aren't people like you guys in the room thinking of buying something stupid, an old car like a 106 perhaps, or a tractor, or dare I say a fire engine, which I'd just like to point out at this point is a terribly bad idea. So a little side story on this. When you go and buy a car, most of you by now will know the idea that if that car is running when you turn up, that you should avoid. When I turned up to buy the fire engine, it was sat there chugging away, and I, instead of going, this is a bad idea, I went, oh, it says Dennis on the front, I want that. That's the story of how I ended up with a fire engine. And actually, at that point, my girlfriend at the time, who had gone to see this thing, and she was like, promise me you won't buy it. And I went, I'm not going to buy it. I'm just going to look at it. I walked back in afterwards, and she's like, you bought it, didn't you? I was like, no, I said I wouldn't. I gave you my word. I've just agreed to buy it. That's very different. And that's the story of how I ended up with a Dennis RS. Yeah, well, it broke down. It broke down for the first. So the story of Jupiter breaking down the first time was I'd taken it to. Turns out, just by the way, the fire engine was not in very good condition when I bought it. It had a whole plethora of faults with it. But when I took it to Ipswich Fire Engine Day, great idea. Gave lots of rides with it. Performed flawlessly. Lots of families, lots of kids enjoyed going out. At the end of the day, Ipswich Transport Museum manager took me over to one side and was like, look, lots of people bring their appliances, but they don't want people to go in it, let alone to do a road, to like take people out on rides. But we appreciate you burnt a load of fuel. Here's £100. That will at least give you something towards your fuel. Brilliant. I was feeling quite happy. So trundled back, and where it was stored at the time, this is before I had the shed, went to Tesco, pulled onto the pump, filled it up with diesel. Paid my money, got back in. Funny, the brakes aren't releasing. Give it a rev. It's weird, I'm not making any air. Gave it a big rev, and there was this whoosh, bang. And then you could hear air rushing out, at which point I realised I had a problem. Now, I don't know if you've ever had the embarrassment of having to go up to the cashier at a petrol station and go, "Hi, I'm really sorry, I've broken down on the pump." And they go, "Oh, yeah, which car are you in?" And you're like, "Ha ha, funny story, actually. You see the fire engine that's blocking 2 pumps? That's me." And this, ladies and gentlemen, was peak time. So there was a queue of cars behind the fire engine, and I have to sit. I didn't dare go back to it because they took out the cones and block off the pump behind me, and these cars have to start finding their ways into a new queue. And then I had to wait 3 hours for recovery. Sat there just being very depressed. Anyway, fire engine, generally a bad idea. Just throwing it out there. Great fun when it works, generally a bad idea. I'm taking it out on the 7th, I think, on a road run. So if you want to start betting now, the pot is open on at what point it will break down on the day.
On the bright side, if it's leaking oil, it has oil.
It doesn't normally leak, so it probably hasn't got any. Do you know the story of it being blessed?
Yeah.
So I took this on one of the roads. He's been booked in to do 5 road runs from Ipswich to Felixstowe. It's a classic car rally that I used to watch when I was from about that age all the way up, and always dreamed of taking part. They normally have got about 500 vehicles. Jupiter has been booked in to do it no less than 5 times, and after that I've successfully taken part twice. To be fair, one of those was COVID, and then the other times it has failed to proceed. But one of those times, we took it, everything worked fine. We got to Felixstowe without any problems, feeling very pleased. I also saw one of my old college tutors, and it was, "Oh, what are you doing here?" I'm like, "That's mine," and to which she shook her head and walked away. So we sat there at Felixstowe, having a nice time, and a priest came along and was like, "Would you like me to bless your machine?" And I was like, "Oh, that sounds lovely. What a lovely idea." So he did a little prayer, sprinkled some holy water on it. Lovely. I was like, "Oh, isn't that nice?" Come the end of the day, I got in it, turned the key, and it went bleh. So once it had been blessed by a priest, they got rid of the demons and it no longer works.
I guess you could say it was an infernal machine.
Ah, that was awful. Yeah. Next question.
Have you got any cheap car challenges coming up?
No, because they're all so expensive. We got Lemons last year, Matt hasn't done anything with. So we shot that in September. It was meant to go out in December. And if you're not aware, December was a long time ago. So following Lemons, Matt took on a new role at work. So he's basically doing what his supervisor was doing and his old job and training the new people. Matt hasn't done anything on the channel since September, has been to the shed once, of which he turned up, saw one of my new purchases that I've not revealed, and went, "Really?" And that was basically the end of that. I can tell you it's worse than Reliant. It's terrible. Because that's the stage now that I'm at, that people start kind of messaging and saying, "Would you like this?" And I go, "Yes," which is why I don't have any space in the shed. Yeah. So, yes! I turned up the other day and was like, "This has not worked. It's just puddled." So I was up there Wednesday when we put a load of poles in to give it some cross bracing. And hopefully with a bit of cross bracing, the roof will stay on until I can work out what to do. But isn't it not mad that for the price of one of these car tent things, you can't buy just a new cover for one? It's cheaper to buy a new entire car shed than it is to buy the cover. So I'm just going to end up with a load of metal. Why? Anyway, so it's more expensive to buy a new car shed than try and tuck it in the corner. And as I was fixing this one, and I happened to be above the other one, I went, "Oh, look, the roof's ripped on this one as well." So the next storm, that will fall apart as well. So I fixed one. And yes.
Could you recycle that metal and use it to turn the Morris back into a car?
The Morris is fine. It just needs a little bit of new metal in it. The best thing about a Morris Minor is everything is available. If you want to build a Morris Minor from scratch, every single component is available to do. It would cost you thousands of pounds, but you can do it. So I have no concerns about that at all, because all we need to do, all we need to do is cut the floor out, the A-pillar out, and some of the wings out, and put new panels in, and it'll be as right as rain. Yeah. Actually, the most terrifying about the thing, because a lot of you know that vehicles over 40 years old are now tax and MOT exempt. The guy who had my Moggy before I had it was apparently driving it around. When we lifted up and looked underneath it, the rear springs, which are leaf springs, should have a bolt that runs through the centre of it into 2 mounting points. It only had one, and when you wiggle it, it just, well, it shouldn't wiggle, and it did. This is a terrifying concept of the vehicles that are technically able to go on the road, which really shouldn't. And my Moggy definitely should not be on the road. The problem is that I need to take everything off the bottom and repair it or replace it because it's knackered. Next question. Please, no more assaults of my vehicles.
Where do you see its channel in 3 years' time?
3 years' time, hopefully over 100,000, or me crying in a corner somewhere. that's where. Yeah, I think realistically, it's got to start. It sounds terrible to say, but it's got to start making me money soon. I love doing this, but I can't afford to do it. It's taken all of my savings, all the money that I had, and all the money that I inherited off my nan when she passed to make this work. I've been doing it for too long. It's got to make money. So if it's not doing it in 3 years' time, I'm going to be doing something else. So hopefully 100K, and with more vehicles. Because there's 2 more turning up this year. Please help me. I have a problem.
No, it's worked so far. There's been nothing bad happened.
Yeah, nothing bad's happened at all. The only thing actually that's genuinely happened with the price of classic cars at the moment, classic vehicles, that everything that I bought at stupidly low prices, and everything's worth more than I paid for it. Even like the Moggy, like finding a Moggy these days for, what I do, 305? I can't remember. Everything is worth more. That's ridiculous. Because I'm very lucky that I had the space and had some money when I did, because it allowed me to acquire the stuff and put it in the shed, and it's now safe. Because you can't do it anymore. Like, your generation is going to really struggle to find anything that's vintage and old that's fun. Because we look at the cheap, the problem, cheap cars today, finding something that's 500 quid, big challenge. Finding something that's interesting you can actually fix for 500 quid, almost impossible. As soon as you come through the 2000s, that car will have a fault in it, and that fault will be engine warning light. What's the problem? Don't know, something. And you will need to take it to a specialist who will plug a computer and go, thank you, I've fixed your problem for you by pressing A, B, and C on my specialist computer. That's £3,000, thank you very much. And that's the answer of modern cars, and it's just boring. Yeah. Question?
Is there any sort of like locomotive or multiple unit that you really don't like?
I really don't like the 755s and the 745s. They're horrible.
I can agree with the 745s to replace the plus 90s. I can tolerate 755s, but I haven't actually trouble with it.
It's one of those things. I've rode one. I went down to London for some filming a couple of weeks back and rode down on one. And it's really nice at the moment, but it's one of those things that you realise in 5 years, it will be ruined. It just doesn't feel like it's built to last. So anything modern, I don't particularly like. Anything that's old, well, you know what I like. I don't think there's any kind of modern EMU I'm not particularly interested in. But yeah, the 755s I really don't like. Anyone else? Any more for any more? You.
What was your favourite day film?
I think this video to come out, I drove around Scunthorpe, around the steelworks. And there's a lot of times that, like filming last night here with Traccoon, you're going up and down and the driver's quite happy with you, did a bit of shunting, you're like, I can't believe I get to do this. This is amazing. Driving around Scunthorpe when that actually are working steelworks and there's stuff going on and they're on the radio being like, oh yeah, we're coming. Can you just move the torpedoes? I have never felt more out of place when I'm driving this around. I should not be doing this. I definitely. But for filming, I think that's the most, one of the best days for just what, apart from Dolgok, because doing Dolgok, because of what it is, sat there driving that up the line, being like, what am I doing? Why am I allowed to do this? So yeah, I think that's probably one of the best ones. There's been lots of good days. To be fair, most of them are good days. Anyone else?
If you could buy any vehicle...
Some of them that worked. Anything that worked. Carry on.
Road or rail. And no budget requirements, no space requirements. Anything.
Can I have the space shuttle? That'd be quite good.
You said road or rail, not space.
It lands. It's got wheels. It's just a water. Oh no, man. If the thing, I think, if we're being totally unrealistic, I'd love the V2. Green Arrow is just like the most beautiful steam engine. If I had stupid, like, I don't know what to do with this money, V2, have that, and just put it back on the main line. Being a bit more realistic, I'd love a Barclay. They're like my big end goal was I'd love to have a Barclay. I think they're just wonderful little engines. So little Andrew Barclays are just perfect. They're so cute, and that's why. Actually, I tell you what, there's an engine on Preston Steam Services that's used to be at Bressingham. It's Beckton 44444. We used to be at Bressingham, and they sold it there, and it has been for sale for possibly longer than some of you have been alive, because it's up for £40,000, and it needs a boiler, a firebox, most of the motion, in fact, everything. It's knackered.
It's been standing on its flanges for 10 years.
It's that long. It's a fun.
Couple box.
I think so. I know it needs a new box, and it needs overhaul plus everything. If I had the money, that's what I'd buy, because it's beautifully Victorian. It's just a square tank engine. It's beautiful. And also, I'd love the idea of owning it and being like, actually, you know what? The forecast looks terrible. Somebody else can drive it. And just watch these poor people without a cab and go, it's mine, that. You enjoyed it. So if I had money, I think that's what I'd do. Any more for any more?
Oh yeah, what? Which is the best? Which one do you think is the best of the big four?
The LNER, clearly.
You could say Julie Roberts and Panniers.
Never have I been able to see a room so divided by one question. It's worse than what football team do you support? Like, who's the best out of the big four? So, yeah. I'm from East Anglia, so the LNER, obviously, were the best. Yeah, but the LNER took it on.
Well, that falls under the LMS.
Short or what is the smallest you own with an engine?
Working or non-working?
No.
So the smallest thing that's got the smallest working one is actually probably that tiny steam engine that I got sent by Engine DIY, which has no actual safety valve. Great design. All that happens if it gets too much pressure is with a simple cylinder, it pushes the cylinder away from the face, like a simple mallard. Simple Mamod. However, it is the most terrifying concept of an engine. You go, this doesn't actually have a dedicated. I see your face. Do you know how a little Mamod's got the spring-loaded? Yeah, that's the safety valve on this. There's enough pressure pushes the cylinder off the face. Yeah, I know. And also, the instructions are so bad that they don't actually tell you how much water you need to put in versus fuel. So if you fuel the burner up, what you do is the engine goes, and you go, oh, I've got no water left. Now, obviously, with a traditional steam locomotive or steam engine with a water tube boiler, running out of water is pretty catastrophic because water is not actually gone. You still have water, you still have steam generating capacity. All you've done is you've stopped it being able to cool itself down. And that's why things go pop, because things it won't. On a little pot boiler, when you've run out of steam, all you're going to do with a little meth burner is it go. But yeah, that's the smallest engine I've got. The smallest, kind of more interesting thing is I've got a Rob Roy, so a 3.5-inch gauge 060, which I have owned for as long as I've owned the fire engine. The fire engine currently works. The Rob Roy still sits there because I need a boiler for it. Because when I got this thing home, I was like, very excited. This thing I bought on eBay, and I made a critical mistake on eBay. I did not use PayPal. I instead decided that, as the seller requested, I'd transfer the money into his bank account. And then this Rob Roy didn't appear. And then the guy stopped kind of responding. And I was away filming at the time down in London. I was working on a feature film. And after a while, I contacted eBay, and they were like, well, you can't do anything. Contacted the guy a couple of times. Nothing, phone, nothing. Kind of went to eBay and look, his address is here, but he's also registered over in Ireland. Like, there's obviously something scammy going on. I hired a private detective and got this private detective to go to the guy's house, knock on the door and be like, hello, I'm here for an engine. And that's how I have a Rob Roy. However, this was a bit of a mistake because as soon as I got it home and started stripping it, filled the boiler up to see just how watertight it was, and the water was leaving as quick as we could put the water into it. So that's my smallest engine, which runs beautifully on air. It's just only an air-operated engine because it won't do anything else.
So what you've got is the world's smallest fire.
Yeah, I just need if I just take a compressor with it, that actually might work. Just sit there with a driving trolley and a compressor. This is fine. So yes, that would work fine. And
LTL video?
yes. This is my locomotive. It's knackered. But we'll see what happens when I put a compressor on it. Yeah, that might work actually. Any more for any more?
I'll go for the final one. What's 3 key skills do you wish you could learn now that you don't necessarily have?
Aside from good financial advice.
That's one. What skill? I mean, there are lots of skills I wish I knew, which would have meant that I didn't do YouTube. There are plenty of things like actually financial understanding, because definitely wouldn't do it. The big thing I am lacking is any kind of machine skills, and that's one of my biggest flaws. Is I have many flaws, like many flaws, but one of my biggest ones in that terms is I don't understand machines. I don't understand machines. I don't have any knowledge of how to use a lathe, to how to use any kind of machines to actually manufacture or repair stuff. I can tell you quite well what's wrong with the steam engine. I can go, yep, that's knackered. Knowing actually how to fix it, haven't got a clue. So that's my biggest flaw. Possibly actually some degree of mechanical engineering at all to start off with. Like everything we've learnt and worked on with cars and stuff is self-taught or listening and talking to other people. Having my time again, I would have loved to go somewhere and actually done an apprenticeship or something to learn those skills. So I actually knew what I was doing rather than just fumbling blindly in the dark with a lot of projects. That'd be 2. 3, I wish I'd carried on and finished my... So I was doing media studies and film production, and then I started working in the industry. I kind of wish I'd carried on and finished my education in that. So I had more of an education in it rather than a practical side of one. Just for a lot of stuff, like a lot of my editing stuff is from the basis I learnt, but I wish I'd followed editing through so I was better at editing and had a better workflow. Yeah, those.
Oh, good news for you. First one I can help.
Yes, but it's time. That's my problem.
Stop cringing.
Hey, YouTube feels like it, trust me, sometimes. We started a bit late. Anyone else, anything else, or are we all bored and want to go home? Wow, what a response that was. Bored and want to go home is.
I think everyone's too polite. That's wasted play.
So, what was that? Right, in which case, as violence is starting at the back of the room, we go, thank you all for coming. I hope you haven't been too bored listening to me ramble on. Thank you for listening to my thoughts on life, the universe, YouTube, and the preservation movement. I really appreciate it. And thank you all of you for watching this stuff and subscribing. Because of you guys, I get to do this stuff and make more content and hopefully bring more people into it. So without you, I'm absolutely nothing. So rather than anything else, I'd like you to give yourselves a round of applause for being wonderful people.